Hello there, folks. Hey, this is Joe Wazoo. Hey, this video is going to talk about running different C programs in Crimson and the different places where you can execute them and have them run different areas. So in this simple application I got built up, and I'm going to actually use the emulator for this. I've got 3 tags here over the left, tag 1, 2, and 3, and then I have some simple programs written. Task 1 is nothing more than does a count for tags. Task 2 does the same thing, and Task 3 also does the same thing with tag number 3. Now, right now, I'm not executing any of these anywhere in this program, and so I'm going to show you here a couple different places where you can do this. If I go back to display page on the left, and if I click up on top of the word pages here, you can click on pages. On the global tab, you have the ability to run a program on PowerUp, which is right away, on startup, on tick, which is once a second, and on update, which is in the background. I always say roughly about 100 millisecond repeat, if you will, because that's typically what our display pages update at. Now, right now, all of these say complex code, because prior to making this video, I put in some complex code, the same on all these, just for playing around, but none of that is being executed at this time. None of these functions are being run right now. Let's say, for instance, that I would like to on tick. Well, let me back up. Let me run the on startup here. Okay. So on startup and on PowerUp, according to the manual, really is negligible in terms of the differences. If I happen to open up the Crimson 3.2 manual and go to page, I think it's 206 or something here, 186 something, but there's these global actions, and you can see here on PowerUp, when the power first starts, on startup, slightly different. Tick is 1 second, and on update. And then you can see down here the difference between on PowerUp and on startup is negligible. In my own personal projects, I always use the startup one. That's what I always do. So anyway, in this case, let me go back here to Crimson. Where'd it go? Right here. All right. So I'm going to run, just want to run one of these tasks on startup. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'll go to the end here. You know what? I'll just run all 3 of these right here, okay? So we're going to run this on startup, okay? And those programs just add is all they do. They just add up. That's it. So if I go back to display pages, well, click here. I'm going to save it. Let me download the emulator. Let's see what happens here. Notice that they start out at 1. If I put reset to 0, there's there. But if I re-download this program again, let's see here. Well, I got to actually change something here to make it refresh. So if I just move this a pixel or 2, re-download, and it's all right back to 1. So that just runs 1 time. That's all that does. Okay, and that just, I typically, just so you know, the on startup, I will typically run a load program. For instance, let me comment this out here, get back to where I was. And maybe every time that I ran a or started this thing up, I want to have tag 1, 2, and 3 be these default values here, okay? Maybe that's what I want to do. I'm just throwing that out as an idea. So I want to call this on startup. So back here in display pages, on the word pages right here, global, and you have 2 options here, team. You can hit the pull down here and choose complex, which is what I have with all this stuff, or let me delete this. I'll show you something here. Get rid of all that. Oops, I thought I would get rid of the complex code. Let me get rid of that. I got nothing there. There, it's blank. You can now do this. You can go over to the right side, and you can grab, if you're only running 1 program, you can grab this and drag it here like this. If you're running multiple programs, yes, you can click the edit button, and you can put a comma after each one, and it'll run that in series. I personally find that when I'm running a bunch of stuff, I would rather go down here to this general, hit complex, and then I'll put it in here, and I'll say here, run this stuff upon startup. I don't think I spelled that wrong. Anyway, at startup. Anyway, so if I do that, there you go. And then the next person comes along sees that. So let's try this. This time, when I download, these should have that default settings. So let's save, download, let's see what happens here. Ready? Boom. And there you go. That's load settings right there. If I set this button, there, load settings, that's what we did. Okay, so that covers that part. Now, what about the on tick? Now, I use the on tick all of the time to run a lot of code because it runs fast. Well, it runs every second, and most of your code team executes in a matter of a millisecond, if not even less than that. So let's say, for instance, if I go here, and let's go ahead and implement these 3 tasks every second. You ready? So let's put that there, and we'll go ahead and save it and download it. Let's see what happens this time. Watch. So now if you look, they're counting. Let me set them to 0, and look. Every second, those are counting, okay? So that code there is being ran once a second. Let me go back here to Crimson. That takes care of that part of the demo. Let's turn this off here. Let's go to the next step, and let's run this code in the on update field, okay? By the way, if I put a slash star and then a corresponding star slash down here, it turns that off, or makes it a comment, if you will. Now, if I come down here, let's do the same thing here. Invoke those parts of code, okay? Again, the programs are simple. They're just going to count up. That's it. Now, remember, before I download, this is counting up once a second. So if you notice, this is a hexadecimal number here, and this one is a decimal, and this one decimal. But that doesn't matter. Anyway, you can see it's counting up here. Let's go ahead and download this to it. Watch this. So now you see it much faster. Let me set to 0, and you can see now it's much faster. It's probably, I think it's like 10 every second, which should be. So it's because our background of our display updates every 100 milliseconds. So that should be roughly every second. Now that is update on in the on update. Like I said, every 100 milliseconds roughly is a scan. Sometimes I'll do that for faster analysis. I might have that execute. Let me go turn this off here and show you something else here. Oops. All right, there we go. All right, so now I have all the code. Let me get, that's okay. I don't mind those saves. That's fine. This one's all coded out. Okay, perfect. All right. So let me go over here to programs. Now, if you notice, team, as you can see, all of these diamonds are green. That is because all of these programs, the properties of all these are set to same as caller. So that is the green means once they call, that's execution, that's it's done. But you can run programs in the background. Now you have the option to run up to 3 programs in the background here. So let's say, for instance, we want to run these programs in the background, just for giggles. So I'm going to go to task 1, and I'll set it to background 1. I'll do task 2, set it to background 2, for instance, and task 3 to background 3. Notice they all turn gray when that happens. If I go back here to display pages, I'm just curious to see what happens. I'm going to run this on tick here. Let's go ahead and execute this here. Let's just see what this does. I can't remember, so I want to see. Okay, here we go. We're going to save that and download it. Let's see what it does here. There you go, reset to 0. So you can see they're all adding up perfectly fine. It runs the same. Nothing special there. What if, I'm just going to throw this out to you. I don't think we'll see a difference. But if I go back here, make this one execute at background 1, and this one execute. So all 3 of them now are running in the background thread of 1. I'm just curious to see what this does. Let's see. I think it'll work the same, but let's try it. Let's look. Yeah, because it's so fast. If I reset to 0, yeah, you won't see no difference. That's it. Those are simple, easy programs to run. Let me throw another interesting one at you. I have a while loop here, and I have a couple while loops. And you can set up a while loop here. Whenever it equals 1, it'll never stop. This is one way you can put something in an infinite loop. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this and show you what happens here. I'm going to leave the while loop set up as same as caller. But inside here, I have these programs it's going to call. So let's try this. Let's go back to here. Let's go back to this part. And let's go ahead and run this. We're going to run this thing in our, whoops. We're going to run this on startup just to see what happens here at startup. I want to see what will occur when I do this. So I'll get rid of that there. Okay. And then right here at startup, I'm going to go, that's my load settings. So I want to run that other program. After I do that, I'll just hit enter. I'll go over here to the right. I'm going to grab this while loop, the green one, and I'll just drag it out here. You can also type it, and then I'll put a semicolon. All right. So in theory, it's going to load those counts, and then it'll run this. Let's see what this does. I'm going to start it. Let's find out. Let's watch. Notice it's still working before I download. If I reset, you see it's still working. Okay. So let's go ahead and download this. Let's see what it does here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Boom. Let's watch. something interesting here could happen, and I think it already did. If you notice, the emulator's hanging because that thread, that program is being ran in the foreground, and it's locked up the machine. This will actually lock up an HMI, and eventually it'll time out and gets back and just keeps rebooting. So that, the way I got that set up where this is running in the foreground and these in the background, that's causing an issue. Let's just reverse this. Let's go ahead and make this program run in the background, and then I'll make all of these run as a caller from there. So I'll go back and make these same as caller, and I'll leave that loop 1 set up in the background. So that should execute in the background, and let's see what happens. Remember, the emulators, see, it's hung, it's still fired up. So let me go ahead and save it and download this. You ready? Here we go, 1, 2, 3, boom. Look, started right away, and watch this. If I reset to 0, I need you to see something. You see how fast those numbers jump up? That's because that's running at the speed of whatever the backplane is. I have no idea what the backplane is. 2.75 thousand gigahertz, whatever it is. I don't know. But it's running way quicker than on update anything. Matter of fact, you can see I put it to 0. This always puts it to 0, and you can see it jump up, okay? So that is one setting. However, I can hit load settings. You really don't see it. Well, actually, you can't really, it's fast. You can't really see it. And I can't stop it. Once it's in this while loop, there's nothing I can do to stop this, okay? So let me go execute something else here. Let me go back here to Crimson. And I got that. I'm going to not call that on start because it's always running down. So I'm going to get rid of this here. I'll just put a couple slashes. Then I'll get rid of that little part. What if I call that on tick? Well, I really don't want to do that on tick because it's already running. So that could become an infinite loop and even be worse. And I'm not going to do an update. What if I do this? Let's go over here to my display pages where I'm at. Click here. I put a button here called the while loop. Okay. And I think, let me just double check this. If I double click on this button, when I release that button, boom, that calls that program, and that's going to execute right away. All right. That's going to be doing the same as on startup, but it's based on this button. However, let me go back here to the program. I need you to look at something. I put in the program another tag called while loop equals 1. That is going to tell me if that's the loop that's running. I want to see that. And then just to go next step further, if I go down to this one, while loop equals 2. Notice this one is green, whereas this one is gray. It's in the background. So this guy is running same as caller, and this one says background 1. Okay, so let's try this. Let me save this and download it. The only time it's going to run this time, team, is when I push this button here. So if I hit load reset to 0, this does my default settings, same as on startup. If I press this button, let's see. You can see right there, and the while loop already jumped. I can't do anything to stop it. I can do this, no, but it will never stop at this point, okay? It's running in the background. What about this other button? Let me go back to Crimson. Let's talk about this other one. Let's try that. This one is same exact code, except on that one, I added a stop me in here, so I can manually try to stop this one. And if I go to my display pages on this one, this button here executes, it executes a tag called run me. And I think if I do this, go over here to tags, run me on triggers, that starts that up and runs right there. Okay. You can see here, team, when the run me goes on, it's going to call that program. And if I try to turn that off, this turns it off. Then notice I got a 0 and a 1 here. Pick up on that, because if I go back here to programs, this other one here is written a little bit different. Check this out. If I hit the edit button here, I'm actually sending it an integer, 1 or 0. So if it comes in with a 1 here, boom, that turns it on. That starts the infinite loop, but it will never stop. I can change this to 2 or 3 or whatever. It'll never actually register. So I put in a stop me in here and a break command to do that. But I'm going to run this. The trick here is I want to leave this the same as caller. I want to see what happens when I do this. So let's go ahead and download this to our unit. All right. We know the while loop. We did this one. That made that 1. That other one should turn this to 2. Let's see. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Look, there's my 2. Okay, so that's running. Hey, that works pretty good. If I click it again, it doesn't turn off at all. You can still see it running. I reset it, still running. Now, if I hit this, this is the tag stop, boom, that trips and kicks that break out. What that does right there, that actually executes this part right here. If stop me equals 1, that's what that thing does. Then it does that, breaks, and gets out of the while loop. You'll notice that loop 1 doesn't have a break statement here, so it always loops. But this is my out of that code. What else am I going to show you? Oh, let me go back here to the emulator. Okay, so let me turn this off. I should be able to, and I could probably reset this back to 0. I thought I made that a data entry. Yeah, yep. So now if I go here, boom, there you go. See how that's at 1? If I click this one now, let's see what it does. So now you can see I'm actually oscillating between these two programs. I don't know which one's faster. I think it's oscillating, but you can see that I'm running both those programs now in there. And then I added another thing here in here called delay. Go back to my programs. Did I put it on this one? Where did I put that? I guess I didn't know. Where did I saw it somewhere in here. In here, no. Well, I saw my delay somewhere. Well, here, since I can't figure out where it is, let me right click on this guy and do find usage. That's right here, but if I hit this little button right here, task 1, aha, it's in task 1, that's where it is. Task 1 has a delay. So, can I use that to maybe slow down my task 1? I don't know. Let's try it, team. Let's just go ahead and look here. And if I put a delay in here, let me reset these back to 0. Well, that's not going to matter. All right, let me turn it off. Can I turn it off? See, I can't stop this one now, so that's not going to be good. The only way I can reset this thing once that is running is I got to move something on the screen here to get the emulator to restart. There we go. All right, so let me set everything to 0. Boom. Okay. Let me put in a delay here this time of, say, I don't know, 250 milliseconds. Let's do this. Okay. Let's try that. And I'm going to run this program because it gives me a chance to stop things. So let's see what happens this time. Notice, team, I mean, you saw this before. Without a delay, without that sleep command, this thing cranked along. Now, if I change this to a 0, let's see what it does. Boom, takes up right away. What if I change it to something slower, like, say, 10? How big it is? Yeah, see, that makes a pretty big difference. How about just 1? Oop, I can't put a decimal. Let's see. Boom. Yeah, anyway. Now I can hit this. Shuts it off. What about this button? Go do that. That cranks on. But see that delay that is happening in task 1, so that works. Anyway, my point being here in this example is that you have 4 places where you can run programs. Most often, I will run a program on startup, which loads my settings, and usually at tick. And most of the time, all my programs are green. They execute so fast. The only time I do my opinion, a 1 in the background is if I have some kind of tasks in there that takes forever to execute. For instance, there's a couple tasks that I've done where I take a screenshot and I want to save it. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Hold on. Here's an example database I have that does a print screen with an FTP thing. And so this program, I think I have a YouTube video on it, but this one takes a screenshot of the display pages up, generates it as a JPEG, and then it goes ahead and emails that out. So I have another YouTube video on this. I'm pretty sure I got to find it. I'll put it in my link. But this one, because of these programs having some things that run in the, kind of hog down some time, I made these set up to run in the background and worked out great, including my FTP parts. So this one runs in the background because it has some tasks that take up a lot of CPU memory. But let me show you something else. Here's another program I worked on where we did some kind of tank application here. Lots of code happening in this one. And all of that is happening via a case statement. Now this whole program, the whole thing is being executed in green on caller. And this whole code executes, like I said, in like 2 milliseconds, if not even that. So I don't have to run anything in this whole thing in background. It's all boom, on call, boom. So it works out great. I don't do anything in this one in the background. It's all resident there, fast, if you will. So don't be afraid to use things same as caller. I typically, like I said, team, I don't hardly do many with the background other than a while loop, which begins in infinite, never ends. So you got to be a little careful with the while loop. That's why you'll see a lot of my programs. I don't quite use the while as much as I do a for loop is my preferred method. Anyway, just thought I'd make a video about different places. Oh, one more thing. So the pages, this is your global. Just so you know, when you click on a page or different pages, every page has the same ability. You can right click on any page and go to properties, and on the actions tab, you get the same, well, almost the same. You get on remove, here's your on tick and on update. Those two are the same. The on select and on remove, on select means when I come to this page, and on remove is when I leave. But anyway, you can also say, hey, when this page is being displayed, I want to run the code there. But if that page is not front and center, don't run that code. So anyway, you can use that as well. Quick little video on that. If you want a copy of this database to play with just for emulation, try it out, whatever. Don't be afraid. Send me a note that you want the G07 running programs, and I'll send it to you. You can run an emulator, and you can tinker with it and try it out. It's pretty cool. Hey, thanks a lot, folks. Have yourself a great day. We'll see you later.